nothing she will ever forget.
There's some kind of special bond there.
Yes.
Ruby, are you contemplating going out somewhere?
Lisa listens to Kenny Rogers for hours every day. Other music she won't touch. Her mother says the singer's the one thing left in her life that makes her happy.
Oh, there's times that she's very happy and she's trying to sing his song or sing with the tape. And she's usually happier, you know, moving her hands in the air.
Lisa is prone to seizures, but Kenny Rogers relaxes her, and by doing that, her parents think he may make those seizures less likely. Now, there's no medical reason why, of all things, Kenny Rogers should be the one thing that at this point can give Lisa so much pleasure. But whatever the reason, next week Lisa is having a dream come true. She'll go to Salt Lake City to meet Kenny Rogers in person.
I can't say that he loved his work.
On Tuesday night, Kenny Rogers has agreed to meet Lisa backstage after his concert. The meeting with Rogers was arranged by an Ohio organization called A Special Wish. The organization will also pay the travel expenses for Lisa and her family. That means Lisa's mother will also be able to give her own message to Kenny Rogers.
I would have to tell him he's very special and he can bring some happiness to a little gal like this. I mean, really, because everything that she can be happy over is what counts.
For the Eyewitness News Update, I'm Dr. Michael Breen.
Contract talks continue tonight between Honeywell and unions representing 6,300 employees. The workers have rejected the company's latest offer dealing with wages and benefits and pensions. The Honeywell contract with its workers expires at the end of this month.
The presence of military troops in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, maintained a tense peace as voting began early this morning. That story leads our news from around the world tonight. Several organizations have said the elections are rigged in favor of the interim government. During the first round of elections in November, troops killed 34 people. A two-day summit of Central American leaders has ended on a note of optimism. Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega announced he will lift the state of emergency in his country and open ceasefire talks with the rebels. Refugee camps in the Israeli-occupied territories remain under curfew tonight as anti-Israel demonstrations continue in several towns and camps. At least 38 Palestinians have died since violence erupted in the occupied territories on December the 9th.
In Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, rock star Tina Turner turned on an audience with her music while setting a world record in the process. Her spokesman says 180,000 cheering fans jammed into the very same soccer stadium where Frank Sinatra had a record audience of 175,000 people 8 years ago. Her staff says that Turner sweated off well over the 6 pounds she normally loses on stage. With temperatures in the high 80s, she worked her way through 3 miniskirts and a pair of jeans. Stan.
3 miniskirts.
I thought you'd be interested in that. Well, you can't get 180,000 people into the Washington Redskins home park, but it sure sounded like it during parts of the Vikings game today.
Sure did. When we continue, a Vikings Extra and some musical tributes to a team that saved the best for last.
Wilson has Leo Lewis, touchdown.
Once again, the beauty is surrounded by the beast. Or in this case, is the beast surrounded by the beauty? I think so, because I'm surrounded by 2 of the most beautiful #1 selling cars in the United States, the Ford Escort. Here, the Escort Pony, $115 a month, no payments till June of '88. Over here, the sporty EXP Escort, no payments till June, $149 a month. So why not call Southdale Ford Yugo right now, 835-5555.
He's an average guy with a sense of decorum. But why was he walking naked through the grand ballroom at a major hotel? It's the year's most embarrassing case of sleepwalking.
Watch A Current Affair Monday at 6:30 on Channel 5.
I'm Bob Rusin. On the next Wednesday night, we'll meet couples who date forever and have no plans to marry. Why do they always stop short of the altar? We'll find out Monday morning at 9.
And now, the Vikings, an Eyewitness News Extra.
Well, the Minnesota Vikings knocked on the Super Bowl's door, but it was not to be.
They knocked all right. We're extending Eyewitness News for this Vikings Extra tonight, so let's go right away to Mark Curtis for some in-depth analysis. Mark?
You know, I think that there were several keys to this game, and one goes without saying, and this isn't making excuses, but the Redskins are a great team. You can talk about Chicago all you want, but this is going to be the Redskins' third trip to the Super Bowl in the 1980s, so don't feel like the Vikings lost to some pushover. Several keys, and we'll ask Mark Stevens to join us on these. This is not the kind of a team that's going to shove the ball down your throat. There's no way, to me, they should have tried to run it up the middle 3 times in a row. They weren't successful against the Chicago Bears, and they weren't today. Mark?
Well, Mark, what you had here was the Vikings' offensive line was getting pushed around for the most part all day long. And on those goal line situations, it almost seemed obvious to everyone that they'd want to try something else. But there was that questionable play calling, and it gives us a chance here tonight to play, I guess you could say, Sunday night quarterbacks.
You can look at the different plays that they're successful at. They've got great speed, they can run to the outside, they throw the ball well, but they don't have a Herschel Walker-type fullback, a running back, that can go up and over and churn out those last 3 yards.
You bring up an interesting point there. In the first half, you remember they were trying, and on that opening drive, they held the ball for 8.5 minutes, and on a crucial play, they give the ball to a rookie. DJ Dozier gets the football, he loses control of it, and it ends up a whole drive, and the Vikings were so impressive on that opening drive, they get absolutely no points out of it.
All right, there's another key point. The Redskins defense got to Wade Wilson 8 times today. The Redskins defense was good, yes, but so was San Francisco's. What happened out there today, do you think?
Well, the sacks were very, very disturbing to all of the offensive linemen, especially any time you brought it up. But they said they were completely prepared for everything that they saw. They said they didn't do anything different, the Redskins. They didn't do anything different to the Vikings, except maybe blitz a little bit more than they expected.
But we didn't anticipate all the blitzing off of that. The other thing that was really a problem for us in the first half was that, you know, the crowd noise was to the extent that we really couldn't hear the snap count, so we were laid off the ball. And
you know, I'm so sick of hearing about the crowd. I can't stand it. You know, it bothers you a little bit, but you know, that's the fans get excited, the media likes it, and you know, it bothers you every once in a while. But we put a couple plays together, and they're back down in their seats drinking their pops where they belong.
Today was not my best day, and but other than that, you know, we just got to hold our head up and look forward to next year.
Gary Zimmerman, an All-Pro who didn't have an All-Pro day against another All-Pro. Dexter Manley beat Zim all day long. And out of all the guys, I think Zim was maybe shook up more than anybody about what took place on that field.
Yeah, you talk about Dave Butts, Dexter Manley, all the guys on their defensive line. Those guys are animals, and I think the Broncos are going to find out in 2 weeks.
Well, and you got to add Charles Madden to that group. They call themselves the Hogs, the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen. And Dexter Manley was a sight all game long, not just on the field. This guy marches up and down on the sidelines, doesn't stop for a second. He's incredibly intense. Sure, at times to us, opposition, he seems obnoxious with some of the things he says, but hey, he backs them up.
That's true. Finally, the Vikings offense, and we're not in any way picking on the Vikings offense, but it wasn't as effective, and maybe this is because of that great Redskins defense we were talking about. Maybe they just peaked against the 49ers, but look at the point differences in total yards in the 3 playoff games. They dropped passes today, Mark, that they wouldn't have dropped a week ago. And we're taking a look at some of the plays here. There were, Mark, a lot of drop balls today. You think that maybe Wade was putting too much on him, or were they rushing Wade's passes?
How can you ever say that a quarterback is throwing the ball too hard? I don't think. They've got to catch those footballs. Wade was in trouble. He had all that pressure on him. Those guys have to be able to hold on to the footballs there.
Well, either way, it's inexplicable. I think, personally, as I look at the thing and we look back at that stat of the point totals, I think that maybe it can be said that they did peak against the 49ers. They played a great game. This clearly was not the same offense that was out there a week ago.
I don't know if you can say they peaked. Obviously, that was the best game they played all season, but they were ready for this football game. Injuries were not really a problem, although Wade Wilson had the flu and so did Darren Nelson. But they just didn't seem to get it totally on track today. And I think that first drive, when they had it for 8 minutes and did nothing, almost set the tone for the whole ball game.
Absolutely. I think that all in all, though, it was a good season, as we've said all night tonight. Mark, thanks for joining us from Washington. And, you know, you really can't say that much We're not trying to be negative towards this team. They played a great season. They played a great game today, but they played a better team. The Redskins are a great team, and you can't take anything away from them.
Think where they were 3 years ago.
Next season ought to be good.
Yeah.
They did prove to themselves.
And as we said, they're going to use this, I think, as a springboard to go into next season.
Okay, good foundation on which to build. Well, right after the game, fans all over the Twin Cities had to try to do the next best thing. That is, find something else to do. Lou Harvin tells us, for many people, that was not really too hard to do.
When the lights went out, the party was not over here at Jukebox Saturday night. Hundreds of fans deciding the Viking defeat would not spoil their entire day. Fans like Martha Pearson of Minneapolis. She decided to take the philosophical approach to the Vikings' loss.
Next year they'll be back and they'll be better than ever.
Some Viking fans who were not in such a festive mood did manage to find other things to do. A lot of people went to the movies. Some of them went shopping, they say, just to forget about what happened. Carol Dingemans of Minneapolis figured he'd take his troubles here to Lake Calhoun to get in some ice fishing. He calls it the perfect cure. What did he catch?
9 crappies.
Is that a better turnout than the game?
Yes.
That's what you were expecting, or did you do better than...
Well, we were hoping for more, but 9 is okay.
Meg Katzman of Minneapolis dealt with the Viking loss by rewarding her 2 dogs. This with a nice, quiet stroll around the lake.
Well, it was pretty dismal. It was pretty depressing, and I was silly enough to watch it with a couple of Redskin fans, so some people were happy, and I was pretty miserable.
Fans say regardless of the Viking defeat, it's nice to know that in Minnesota, there's always something else to do. Lou Harvin for the Eyewitness News Update.
Okay, it's only a game.
Yes.
That's what many people are reminding us tonight.
True, for most of us anyway, right? But for some, this game is serious money. Game day bucks, the long and the short of it, when this Viking Extra continues.
Spend February 7th with a bunch of straight-laced Minnesotans on Lake Harriet. The Blade Run, Minnesota's skating event.
Believe it or not, there were some Minnesotans who were not glued to their television sets today. But as John Wingate reports, apparently they were in the minority.
If you wanted to go shopping during the game, you could have your pick of a parking place. It was a slow Sunday at your favorite mall. That meant an easy day for store clerk Kathy Tucker, who tried her best to keep busy despite a shortage of customers.
I don't expect to see too many men around today.
There were shoppers, men and women, with their own reasons for skipping the playoff game. Lori Dombeck of Wayzata said the choice was easy for her.
I don't like it, and my brothers just yell and scream, and I like to go spend money instead.
Bill, why aren't you home watching the game?
Well, to be honest with you, the last 2 playoff games, I came in at halftime, and they won them, so I thought maybe if I stayed away to halftime, I wouldn't jinx them today.
So fewer Minnesotans